Okay, so today I am going to show in one video the teardown of the two-stroke engines, the teardown of the two-stroke engines. And so this is the chainsaw CS 310 that we're going to be tearing down. Basically, we're going to be using one tool. It is a Torx 25. It is a Torx 25. And it looks like a star. It looks like a star. Let me kind of hold it up over here to the white. Well, you'll be able to see it. It looks like a star bit. And so I've got a couple of those. I've got one on a speed gun, so it's going to be a little quicker for me. And this is the two-stroke engine that you will have in front of you. This is the way it'll be set up. Okay. You'll notice I have my notes with me. Please do not be afraid to bring your notes with you into class, right? Because you're going to be expected to know what to do when you come into the shop. All right, so on the teardown of the two-stroke, first thing we want to do is take off everything that I don't need tools for, which is going to be our engine cover. And it just snaps off. There's some snaps right here on the side that just simply pop off. And we're going to pop it off, set it off to the side. And then also right here is our air cleaner. And it just has a spring right here. It pushes down. There's a couple of tabs right here that we push out. And as we push out, this air cleaner comes, will slide right on out. Okay. Okay. And then next we want to take our throttle handle loose. And what we're going to use our screwdriver. Right up underneath here is a tab that you come in, and there's a black tab, and you're just going to push it down, and you're just going to lift it up, and it's just going to pull out. It's going to pop out. Okay. And then we've got our throttle linkage right here. And we're just going to kind of leave everything as it is right now. The next thing we're going to take off is our handle. We're going to take this handle here loose. Okay. And so there's 4 screws here. And then there's a couple of screws here that we're going to take loose. And so, so it is much quicker with my power tool here. And then we want to take this center screw out of the spring, but we want to leave this screw in. Okay, so we're going to take this center screw out, but we're going to leave this screw in. And now our handle assembly is completely out. And grab my magnet so I don't have to bend over and pick up all the screws that I'm dropping. That's what happens when you get old. Okay, so the next thing we're going to remove is we're going to remove our flywheel or our pull rope assembly. And again, there's 4 screws right here on this one. 4 screws here, 1 here, 1 here, and then 2 down here on the bottom. We're going to take those out. And we're going to take our brake guard, pop it up. And then once we've done that, then we're going to remove our wires from here. And we want to make sure that we're keeping the shape of these wires and maintaining that, because they're going to go right back into the correct place here. Unplug them. And go ahead and remove this cover. It should just pop off of here. There it goes. And set it off to the side. Okay. Next, we want to remove our chain guard. And there's a special tool. There's not really a special tool, but there's a tool inside our kit that will help us remove that. But it's also a, what size is that? It's not that size, Mr. Clark. I probably had it sitting out with some other tools that I had. Oh, this is it right here. It is a 1/2 inch. I knew there was a reason I had this sitting out. It is a 1/2 inch. There's also inside of your toolbox or inside of your toolkit a T handle that will help take that off. Just slide that off, set that there. Now, this assembly will not come loose if the brake is set. So we have to release the brake so this will turn so we can take this assembly off, right? So this is very important. Right here is an E-clip. It's a very small clip that fits right around there. It's in the shape of an E. If you lose that part, your engine will not go back together. So please watch how I do this. What I'm going to do, I have a very small point screwdriver. turn it around here so I can get my thumb behind it. And I'm going to set my thumb behind it. Trying to get it turned around. And I'm going to set my thumb behind it so that it's not going to go flying. You see, I'm going to set my thumb behind it so it's not going to go flying across the shop, across the room, because it's important. I don't want to lose this. And I'm just going to slide it off of this center post. Just slide it off of this center post. Right into my finger. Right into my finger. Okay, it's a very small part. All right, but that's important that we keep that. Okay, then on top of that is a washer. And on top of that washer is my cap. On top of that cap is a set of needle bearings. A set of needle bearings. All right, so we're going to put those together. Make sure that we don't lose those. Set these off to the side here. All right, and then my clutch assembly. And here's a special tool that we're going to use to take the clutch assembly apart. And this sits right inside there, and those posts catch in the center there. And we're going to use a size 19, and they should be just handy. These are reverse threads because this is where my chain goes. And as my chain turns, this is going to tighten up. This is going to tighten up. And so there are reverse threads. So instead of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, it's going to be lefty-tighty, righty-loosey. And so, so I want reverse threads on these, okay? So it's clock on, counter off. So it's going to be reverse threads. So it should be, I have to sit here and think about it now. I have to look at it like a clock. So instead of clock on, counter off, clock on, that's the way it should go. All right, let's see if I get this right. Yep, there it went. Okay. I'll thread this off, and then we'll set this right inside here. And then there's another washer inside here that we're going to take out. You can actually flip it over and flap. Also inside that washer, inside this washer, there's another small washer that goes inside there. So there's two washers that go inside there. Remember, the smaller washer is going to go towards the engine. And then also inside there is your oiler. That's gonna put oil and chain oil on all of your parts, okay? And that actually twists off. And so you're gonna twist it counterclockwise, a couple of good turns, actually clockwise there. And it'll pop right off. And then we're going to set that off to the side. And we're done with that side. The next thing we're going to take off is our carburetor assembly here. We're going to take off our carburetor assembly here. All right. And so there are three bolts here, 1, 2, 3, that come out. And so again, I'm just going to pop them loose. Now with the carburetor assembly, you've got one short bolt and then you've got two longer bolts here. Okay, and so now the entire carburetor assembly will pop out. Okay. But before we do that, let's just run these back in handy just a little bit. Before we do that, let's take the handle off. Let's take the handle off. So we've got a bolt here in the center. Underneath here, you've got a bolt here, and then we've got one bolt here on the bottom, and this should just snap out. Okay, we're gonna have to take this spring off, and it's not a problem getting this spring back on. Okay, and then your handle will just pop out. We'll just flip it around here so you can see it. You're gonna have to get it out of this notch here, and then it will just pop out. Out of this notch here. See right there. So you're gonna pick it up, take it out of there, pop it out, and the whole handle assembly will come out. And there's my spring and my bolts that go with it. Okay, and then here's my linkages. Here's my linkage. This is my throttle linkage and my choke linkage. Okay, we're going to go ahead and finish pulling these out. Again, you've got one short and two long screws for the carburetor assembly. This is probably the only filter in the entire system. Okay, so we want to be aware of that, not to tear it up. Okay, so I'm going to put that over here. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull my carburetor out. These linkages will just pop out of here, pop out of the top, and then your throttle, your choke linkage has a rubber grommet that just slides right out of there, and then it just comes right out. And then we'll just go ahead and remember, oh my goodness, they fell out. What to do, what to do. Okay, but it's important that we remember how those linkages came in and which ones they hook up to, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, this is probably one of the most precarious parts of the teardown because these hoses are very fragile, they're very thin, and so it's important that, number one, we remember how they hook up and that we're very careful in taking them apart. Okay, so you probably want to grab your pair of long nose pliers and just gently, as we did with the 4-stroke, kind of twist them a little bit. Be very careful because these are thin-walled hoses, and so just very gently, and then use your thumb as a pressure point to try to pull gently and slide it off of there. All right, now this one back here on the back, there are barbs on there. What I mean by barbs, there's little notches, okay? And so you want to do the same thing with it. Grab it very gently and just kind of twist it a little bit. And then and you don't want to pull it from inside there, because that runs down into the actual fuel tank. And if we pull it out of the fuel tank, then we're going to have to get new hose and run it down inside the fuel tank and all of that. So very gently grab and just gently pull and let it come off of there. And now we have our carburetor assembly taken apart. Okay. These are our adjustment screws for everything, and so we have to remember how it goes back in. Obviously, it's going to go back in. Here are the ports for our adjustment, so it's going to go back in as such. Okay. The first linkage here, this linkage obviously controls this butterfly valve, which controls the air, which is for our choke. This linkage right here, it controls the butterfly valve in the back, which controls the amount of fuel. So that is for our throttle. Choke, throttle, choke, throttle. Okay, so that's important to remember. So we're going to set that there, and we're going to set that there. Okay. Okay. So the next thing we want to remove is the magneto. So we're going to take this guy apart. There's two screws here. There's two screws, one here at the top. I'm going to pop them loose. And you'll notice that there is a wire up here on the top one. It's important to remember that as we're taking these guys apart, there is a plastic spacer at the back of these bolts. It's important to remember, Clark, everything's important to remember. It's important to remember that those plastic spacers go to the back. Those plastic spacers go to the back of the magneto. Okay, I'm going to try to pull it off with the, oh, I just, come back here. Okay, there's my spacers. All right, they go on the back side of the magneto, on the back side. Okay, so we want to keep that in mind as we're putting our engine back together. Okay, so I'm going to set him right here with those parts. Hey, we're pretty close to 3/4 of the way there. Now I'm going to remove the exhaust. The exhaust is a 1/4 inch, I believe. Nope, a little bit bigger. What size is it? What size it is? Well, it's not that size. Let's try a 5/16. Presto. It is a 5/16. And I'll have some extra tools in there for you. And so we'll just take the exhaust off. Now there's two nuts. There's two nuts that we take off. Slide these out of the way for you. Two nuts. The exhaust slides off. Now there is a gasket here. Forgot about that one. All right. Then these bolts just slide out of the engine. There's a little notch right there, and then what I do is I just slide them back in here, put the bolts on handy so that they will hold in place. and set that off to the side. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we've got 4 bolts here on the bottom. You can see right there 4 bolts on the bottom that hold the engine in place, and then I've got 2 bolts here on top that hold this in place. We're going to take those bolts loose, and we are ready to take our engine out of the case. And again, you'll be doing this by hand. I'm using the power tools because I'm expediting time here. And again, the 4 bolts down here. Now we're going to move our hoses and our wires out of the way. Okay. You notice that I did not take the flywheel out. It's not really necessary. Okay, this is where it gets kind of tricky. We're going to take a screwdriver very gently. This rubber hose right here, this rubber part, we're going to gently pry it off of the exhaust here, and you'll notice it'll kind of pry the engine up. And as we do that, we're going to lift this part up and lift the engine up at the same time. And lift up and out. We are done with this. We can move it out of the way. Okay. This is a very important piece to talk about right here. Okay, this part right here and this part right here must match when you put your engine back together, because this is what creates the vacuum inside the carburetor. All right, we have a vacuum inside the carburetor. I'll talk about that when we start to put it back together. All right. But for right now, we've got 4 more bolts to take loose. On the bottom here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, boom, bang, pow. Okay, find my other rag. Ladies and gentlemen, there we go. Total disassembly. We will talk, I will put together another video on what we want measured, and we will talk about that and we will go from there. Okay. So there you go. There is total disassembly. Please make sure you're watching this video because you need to know what to do when we get inside the shop. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you in the shop. I'm out.